Hi everyone. This week you're studying human factors and universal design. We'll discuss the human factors that affect your kitchen or bath design, including reach ranges and maneuvering clearances. And then we'll talk about universal design, the definition, what is it, and the 7 principles. It's no surprise that kitchens and bathrooms are spaces that are designed to be used by humans. All right. Therefore, we use can't even say that, anthropometric and ergonomic information, all right, and human factors studies to help guide our design of these spaces. This information and these studies really form the basic concepts of universal design. What kinds of human factors do we study? Well, the term is functional anthropometry, and don't quote me on that pronunciation, all right? And what that means is we take measurements of the human body in motion. This includes height and reach ranges. All right, those are going to vary with stature, how tall someone is, all right, physical ability, and also with obstructions. Maybe there's something in the way, all right. We need to know this in order to plan storage, fixtures, the size of them, all right, appliances, and for locating controls like light switches. We also study range of motion and flexibility, and this helps when you're planning for how your user is going to move around the space. One more piece to this anthropometry is the study of comfort zone or a body buffer zone. Turns out that this can vary based on psychological factors and cultural differences. Let's take a closer look at those reach ranges. All right, and this illustration is for your planning from your planning guidelines book. Take a look all the way in Appendix A. All right, and what you can see here is that the zone of comfortable reach, all right, where the most commonly used items should be stored, where most of your controls should be located. All right, I've highlighted right here in red, all right, from 25 to 59 inches above the floor. All right, so that includes kind of the top drawers in your base cabinets. It includes maybe the bottom shelf of your upper cabinets, and of course, everything in the countertop area. I've also highlighted the maximum reach height. Of course, that's going to vary based on your user, right? But it's typically 72 to 76 inches above the floor, right? And that's the highest that you want to store anything in your kitchen or bath. Reach ranges vary, and users in wheelchairs have some of the most restricted reach ranges. And that's why we use them to illustrate these accessible reach ranges. All right, so you can see that people in a wheelchair can reach to different heights depending on how they approach an item, whether it is from the front, a forward reach, all right, or from the side, it's a side reach, right? And we've got an illustration here of somebody demonstrating a forward reach. You can see that the heights are different than the last slide, all right? In general, both forward and side, the best reach ranges are from 15 to 48 inches above the floor. Coming back to this illustration from the planning guidelines, I've added on, you can see these blue lines right here, to illustrate those accessible reach ranges from 15 inches to 48 inches above the floor. All right, you can see it's a little lower down here and completely misses most or standard upper cabinet heights. All right. So those would be your accessible reach ranges. Next, let's talk about clearances. It turns out that people take up space in a room and we need some room to move around and to work. All right. That's typically going to be a roughly 30 inches by 48 inches. All right. And you can literally draw that on a floor plan if you like. All right. Um, but it, of course, varies based on your user. Some of the larger mobility devices, like the motorized scooters, take up a lot more floor room, right? This could be all the way up to maybe 32 by 52, or of course, you have to check with your individual user to see if they need even more room. Once you've taken that into account, then you can start designing those clearances, right? And make sure that your kitchen or your bathroom over here is usable for the people that it's designed for. Once again, people in wheelchairs or motorized scooters tend to be the most restrictive case, so we use them as an example. You need to make sure that people are able to use a forward approach or a side approach to access any of the work areas or the fixtures or appliances in your designs. And you also need to make sure that they are able to move around and turn around in your space. This could be a turning circle clearance or a T-shaped clearance, right? If you've ever done a three-point turn in a car, you know how a T-shaped clearance is going to work. When you're creating a custom kitchen or bath design, right, the most important criteria for that personalized design is that it works for your user. We've been talking about that wheelchair as the most restrictive case, and there's a great quote from the kitchen planning textbook. It says, although these standards for a person using a chair are useful in general, it's much better to measure the person in the chair. The variables are greatly affected by the person's size and ability, right, as well as by the design and fit of the chair. This brings us to the idea of universal design. Universal design is a practice that builds on the human factors we just discussed to improve the use of products, spaces, systems, right? Equally for people of a variety of sizes, variety of ages, and a variety of abilities. Universal design is inclusive and equitable, right? And it meets the needs of a great number and variety of people. There's a number of myths around universal design, right? So let's talk about them. One myth is that universal design is nothing more than design for people in wheelchairs. Well, in actuality, a good universal design, right, is accessible to people of most sizes, shapes, and ability, and therefore it applies to people tall or short, young or old. Another excuse me, is that universal design only helps people with disabilities and older people, right? It's not appropriate for anybody else. Well, it turns out that a space using universal design helps everyone eventually. Frail people, pregnant women, children, even active, healthy people traveling with too much to carry. Another myth that we need to address is that universal design costs more than traditional design. Well, yes and no. All right. Certainly you can spend money if you have to and if you need to. But it turns out that there are many standard products, all right, that are appropriate. And the degree of customization and quality of your design, all right, has the most cost impact. Right. So if you are choosing a higher grade of cabinets, that's going to have a much that's going to have a much higher cost impact than the fact that you designed the layout of the cabinets according to universal design. The last myth on this page here is that universal design is stigmatizing because it looks medical, right? And it turns out that the best universal design is actually invisible. You can't tell that it's there. And in general, universal design can enhance the appearance and the personality of a space. The last thing I want to touch on in this video is the difference between universal design and accessibility. What are these two terms? All right. It turns out that access-related standards, all right, are minimum criteria for people with disabilities, and they are applicable in public spaces. So when you're talking about building code, all right, and the ADA, those are applicable in public spaces, not in residential kitchen and bath design. But those access-related standards can be a starting point for design parameters, all right, and can help you support your universal design, all right, and your design thinking. The NKBA access standards and what's in your textbook, the design guidelines, are based on the accessibility standards in ANSI and the ICC. Thank you, everybody. We just took a look at some of the human factors applicable to kitchen and bath design, right? And then an overview of universal design. What is it and why do we care, right? The next step is to take a closer look into universal design.